Okay, Mr. Phobes here. I'm going to show you how to edit your color wheel in Photoshop. Um, took the photo, it was on the desktop, I opened it, and then I went to the crop tool and I cropped it to 11 by 14 at 150, which should be fine. Um, Make sure when you open Photoshop that you are in Essentials. So that's right here. Um, the other thing you want to make sure is that go to Windows and make sure that the color is open. That you might want to have the history so you can see, go back if you need to, that the layers are open. And then that should be all you need. Okay, so again, if you open it up and you don't see the sliders, come down and click on CMYK sliders because this is going to be really important. Okay, so I want to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to make a copy of the background layer, and then I'm going to make sure I'm on that layer. I think one of the first things I want to do is clean up this background. You can see there's a lot of paint and stuff on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the quick selection tool, and I want the cursor size to be, about 4950, something like that. And I'm just going to come, my goal is to select everything but the dots. Okay, so I've stopped, and then I'm going to hit the shift key, and that'll every time I stop, if I keep the shift key held down, it keeps adding to the selection. You can see the little ants going around everything, and looks to me, so it's eliminated, it's not around the value scale. Looks to me like I've got it. Okay, so I want to just turn this white. So I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to go to fill, and then I'm going to, when it comes up, there may be a variety of things, but select white. Make sure the mode is normal and the opacity is 100%. Hit OK, and boom, it's white. Now select Command D, and that'll deselect the dots around there. Okay, so again, I want to make these adjustments, and let me bring in my PDF of the color wheel as a guide. So I go to Blackboard, I go to the color wheel project, and then what I want to do is download the PDF. So I'm just going to open it up. Make sure you're in Chrome, and then download it. I'm going to download it to the desktop. Okay, and then get out of that, and then I'm going to go File. So in Photoshop, I actually have to open it as a new file. Um, all right, so there it is. So again, what this is going to allow me to do is kind of double check my formulas. You can just switch back and forth between the two files. Okay, so if I look at the yellow and I go to the eyedropper tool, it's going to tell me what the formula is. So it's not absolutely correct because the paint might have been a little bit contaminated, but it looks pretty good. I'm just looking at this, and one of the things is I can't really see the colors in here, so I might want to adjust these. I'm going to leave the yellow green, the blue green. The cyan I might want to bump up a little. I'm not going to adjust all of these. I think what I'm going to do, though, is the very first thing, I'm going to make sure that my target neutral is correct. So I would do that just for all of them, and that will be a good reference. So I'm going to select it, and then you can see it's pretty close. Again, it should be 50, 50, 50, and that's fine. But there should be no black in it. Okay, so then I'm going to go to the bucket tool, Make the tolerance 32, and then boom, there it is. Okay, so it was a little cool. It looks good now. Now I can kind of see these. So I think probably what I might want to do is make some adjustments over here. It looks like these two hues are a little bit close. Um, so I've got my, let's look at this. Let's go back here. So um, the one I was looking at is red. All right, so I might want to select the red, and I can see it's close, but it's got some cyan in it, which it shouldn't have. So I'm gonna, and it has a little bit of black, but it's correct now. We know that red is made of 100% magenta and yellow. So now I go back to the bucket tool. Boom. Okay. Now that looks better. Um, you know, my red magenta. If we look at that, my red magenta is 50% yellow and 100% red. So you know, you can go through and check all these. I'm not going to make you watch me do all that, um, but this one should be. It's got too much yellow. It's got black in it, which it shouldn't have, and it's got some blue in it, so we don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to kind of connect these, and I'm going to stop a minute here, and I'll come back in a minute. Okay, through the magic of television, I went through and I did all these, and you can see the difference. So I left the bottom layer locked, so I couldn't adjust it, but if I turn this off, you can see the difference, right? So, you know, part of this could have been the photography and the way that it captured the colors. So I didn't change these three. I left them alone, but I adjusted all of those. Okay, so now what I want to do is start, you know, adjusting these. So there's my target. These look certainly too close together. So again, think about these muted colors. The formula is 90% of the key color and 10% of its complement. Okay, so that's what we're going to do when we adjust these. So I'm going to just look at this one. Okay, so the key color in this would be magenta. So that's pretty close right there. All right, and then the complement is green, and so green is made up of 100% yellow and 100% cyan. So I'm going to bring both of these down to 10%, so they're equal parts. And I'm going to take the black out. There shouldn't be any black in it. And then so that looks much better. So I'm going to go through and do all of those. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so magically everything's corrected, including, if you notice, I redid the value square. I could probably work on that, but it looks much better than it did. If I go back and look at the original, right? There's the original, and there's the revamped version. Okay, so you know, we can you can see what I did is if I go and I just make some spot checks here. For example, this one was 100% magenta. This one is it should be even 10 or 11, doesn't matter, and then that's 90, so that's correct. And then this one is should be even. It should be 40, 40, and 60. So it changed just a little bit, but that's fine. So go through and you can double check all of those. So again, you want these at 100% of the saturation. This would be 90% of the key color, 40%, 90% of the key color, 10% of the complement, 60% of the key color, and 40% of the complement. Okay, let me show you how I took care of this. I'm going to step back a little ways. Back. All right, so the way I address this is I went to something called the rectangular marquee tool. So if I select that, and then I can pick up, so I had changed this back to magenta, but if I select this area, that means it will only be filled there. Okay, so what I want to do is if I look at the formula for magenta, I want to add some black to it, right? So all I need to do is add a little bit of black, probably, I think I added it to about 20%, something like that, right? And then I go to the bucket tool and drop it in. Okay, that probably needs to be a little bit darker. So I can keep adjusting it. Set the tolerance at 32. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to move the selection, and rather than redo it, I can go to the keyboard and go to the left arrow, and I hit that, and it just moves the selection over. Okay, and then I come and I add a little more black. Boom, like that. So it didn't fill that, so I have to come back until it's completely filled. So I had to click it a couple of times and then move the selection over. Okay. Whoops, I needed to add some black to it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so hit Command D to get to, so you get the point. So let me go back back in history to where I was at. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. So one of the things I did once I got this done is I wanted to clean this whole thing up. So let me see if it'll allow me to so I want to add some white. So I just bring the slider up here, go to the bucket tool. I might want to bring this tolerance down because when they're close in value and hue, yeah, that worked. All right, and then I probably needed to get a little bit lighter, so let me bring this up to here. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that looks good. I could play around with it, but if you wanted to clean it up, go back to the little marquee tool here, select, and you see how I've left out the ragged edges. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a layer, new, via copy. And what that does is it makes a new layer there, right? So that's just, if I turn everything off, that's like super clean, all right? But what I want to do is I want to get rid of that background stuff. So I'm going to turn this layer off. I'm going to go to the brush tool, and I want to brush it white. So I'm going to select white. That's what's in the palette. I'm going to go to the brush tool. I'm going to make sure that the mode is on normal. The opacity is at 100. The flow is at 100. The smoothing is at 100. And when I go to the brush tool, I want to make sure that its hardness is at 100%. Size is about 150. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eliminate all of it. So that makes it super duper clean. Turn back, look at that. Boom. Oh, I've got a little bit of them. So I can make sure, as long as I'm on that layer, look at that. How professional does that look? Okay, so I would save it, go File, Save As, and I'm going to call it Color Wheel Correction. Save it. I've already had saved it. Let's look at the image size. Go to Image Size. Okay, that's a little too big for a blackboard. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce it to, let's reduce it to like 9. Okay, and it's, so that's fine as long as you have these selected. Hit OK. That reduces it. Go File, Save, and you're ready to post it in Blackboard.